GDP growth rate, and earnings reports for more than a third of S&P 500 companies take talking stage. Also, Eurozone's largest economies, including Germany, France, Italy, and Spain, will be publishing key reports on growth and inflation rates. In Business 360 today, we will keep you updated with the latest information thereof. I am Edidio Martin. In today's business outlook, we will begin with the situation in Ukraine as Russian missiles slam Odessa port, putting a landmark grain deal at risk. Russian missiles hit the major port of Odessa in southern Ukraine on Saturday, according to Ukraine military, dealing a blow to a deal signed on Friday to unblock grain export from the Black Sea port. The landmark deal signed by Moscow and Kyiv on Friday is seen as crucial to curbing soaring global food prices, easing a supply crunch by allowing certain exports to be shipped from Black Sea, including Odessa. The UN officials had said they hoped the agreement would be operational in a few weeks, but it is unclear if that would still be possible given Saturday's strike. The strike on Odessa drew strong condemnation from Kyiv, the United Nations, and the United States. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky said the strike showed that Moscow could not be trusted to implement the deal. Well, up next, let's look at Twitter's sale drop amid Musk legal battle. Twitter's sales totaled $1.18 billion in the second quarter, which fell to $1.32 billion estimated by analysts. According to Twitter's disappointing second quarter sales report, it was another blow to a company that is already fighting a high-profile legal battle with Elon Musk over the fate of the social network. Its revenue fell by 1% in the quarter from a year earlier, its first annual decline since the middle of the pandemic in 2020. Well, according to the company, advertising industry headwinds associated with the macro environment as well as uncertainty related to the pending acquisition of Twitter were factors in the disappointing results. Well, away from Twitter, let's look at Statistical's report. Right now, Walmart tops the list of the world's highest grossing company. Well, Walmart is the top selling company in the world, turning over around $573 billion in annual revenue. This is according to the Statistical Company database. The company in second place is the e-commerce giant Amazon, with a revenue of around $470 billion, a $100 billion drop behind Walmart. Two Chinese companies are also included in the list. The State Grind Corporation of China, which is in the business of electricity generation, distribution, and transmission, and China Petroleum, a state-owned oil and gas enterprise. Two more fossil fuel companies, state-owned Saudi Aramco from Saudi Arabia and British-owned Shell, also made the top 10. Apple and Volkswagen are the only two consumer goods companies that appeared on the list. A third retailer and a second one from the traditional brick and mortar field appears in rank 6, U.S. drugstore chain CVS. This means that Amazon remains the only seller dedicated exclusively to e-commerce on the list for now. Moving away from that, Ugandan President Museveni wants a rapid shift to electric vehicles as a long-term solution to crude oil supply shocks. The president's comments came in the wake of galloping fuel prices in Uganda. Diesel in Kampala sells at the currency of 6,500, which is $1.72 a liter, while petrol sells for $1.85 per liter. Uganda President Yoweri Museveni has flagged an accelerated shift to electric vehicles and clean energy as a long-term solution to deflect the soaring cost of oil and gas caused by the war in Ukraine. He said he is rejecting fuel subsidies suggested in some quarters to lower cost. For a while, Uganda has been exploring ways to cut its reliance on Kenya for fuel imports, routing shipments through neighboring Tanzania as an alternative supply source. Industry data shows that Uganda's fuel imports from Tanzania have drastically increased, growing from 5% 2 years ago to more than 20% as the fuel price continues to shoot. Well, at this point, we will go for a breather. When we return, we will look at the top most developed countries in Africa, as well as the stock market report. To stay with us. Thanks for staying tuned. We'll continue by looking at the 10 most developed countries in Africa based on the United Nations Human Development Index. First, for a country to be classified as developed, it must meet certain standards, such as modern amenities like good roads, housing, stable electricity, telecommunication infrastructure, hospitals, and a stable government. The availability of good jobs, accessibility to health and social services, personal freedom, the effectiveness of educational system, and much more. Well, countries with high human development ratio score between 0.80 to 1.0. However, African countries usually rank low compared to the global average. For instance, Mauritius, Africa's most developed country, was ranked 66 out of 189 countries in the world. So let's look at the list. Mauritius is at number 1. This island country has an HDI, which is the Human Development Index ranking, of 0.804. At number 2 is Celsius. This is yet another island African country with a high HDI ranking of 0.796. Algeria is at number 3. The Northern African country has an HDI of 0.748. Tunisia at number 4 has an HDI ranking of 0.740. At number 5 is the fifth most developed country in Africa is Botswana. It has an HDI ranking of 0.735. Libya's HDI stands at 0.724 according to the US latest ranking, making it number 6. Number 7 is South Africa. This country has an HDI ranking of 0.709, thus taking the position of the 7th most developed country in Africa. Egypt comes in at number 8 position with an HDI ranking of 0.707. In the 9th position, we have Gabon with an HDI ranking of 0.703. And lastly is Morocco with an HDI ranking of 0.686. Well, Nigeria is not part of the top developed countries in Africa. Let's look at the European Union trying to get gas supply agreement with Nigeria after fallout with Russia. But this is according to the Deputy Director General, Department of Energy, European Commission in Brussels, Matthew Baldwin, at a news conference in Abuja. Recall that Moscow aborted gas supply to the rest of Europe after the 27-member political and economic bloc condemned the February 24 invasion of Ukraine by Russian troops. Members of the EU team to Nigeria and the Economic Community of West African States are expected to meet with top officials and private sector players in Nigeria in the coming days for gas. Well, let's look at the stock markets. We'll be starting with US futures that have drifted ahead of a busy week. US futures were little changed this morning as investors brace for a busy week of market-moving catalysts headlined by the Federal Reserve meeting, GDP data, and big tech earnings. Futures contrast tied to the 3 major indices drifted flat to slightly negative. US stocks tumbled on Friday as disappointing results from Snap spurred a sell-off in social media shares. Still, the major averages closed the week higher as investors speculated a market bottom, with the Dow up 1.95%, while the S&P 500 and Nasdaq rose 2.55% and 3.33% respectively. The Fed is expected to raise rates by another 75 basis points at its July 26 and 27 meeting as it aims to get some type of a soft landing. Investors will get a look at advanced estimates from the second quarter GDP on Thursday amid concerns over potential recession. More than a third of S&P 500 companies will also report earnings this week, with mega cap tech names including Apple, Microsoft, Alphabet, Amazon, and Meta Platforms taking center stage. Well, I won't end Business 360 without looking at the Nigerian stock market. We're looking at the stock market roundup as at last week, setting the pace for this week. Investors spent 14,803 billion naira, or 14.803 billion naira on 917.190 million shares in 19,513 deals last week. The financial services industry was one of the three major performing sectors after investors traded 648.207 million shares worth 6.258 billion naira in 9,293 deals on the trading floor. Consumer goods industry investors traded 102.605 million shares worth 3.211 billion naira in 3,016 deals. Their counterparts in the conglomerate industries exchanged 36.218 million shares valued at 193.47 million naira in 562 deals during the period. Cornerstone led the gainers with 0 naira 50 kobo to end the week with 0 naira 72 kobo as against 0 naira 57 kobo recorded the previous week. Surplus shares rose also alongside linkage shares and the initiates. NACO topped the losers list after shedding 2 naira 80 kobo to close at 5 naira 50 kobo as against the previous 8 naira 30 kobo per share. Keverton lost 0 naira 23 kobo to close at 1 naira 37 kobo per share. Honeywell's share price was down alongside FTN Cocoa share and Nigerian breweries. UBA, GTCO, and Access Holdings investors traded 355.624 million shares worth 4.120 billion naira in 3,486 deals. Well, this accounted for 38.77% and 27.83% to total equity turnover volume and value, respectively. Join us tomorrow as we will look at more business stories as the week evolves. Stay tuned for the news at 12 up next. I am Ididion Martin. Thanks for watching.
The people of Ikotokobo are mostly farmers. They major in the farming of crops such as okra, pepper, palm oil processing, as well as fishing. The road, according to the indigents, has remained inaccessible for years. Reports say that the road was later awarded to Hense Construction in 2019. The indigents stressed that the condition of the road has made the movement of farm produce to the markets very challenging. They also complain that their products are wasted during rainy season because they do not have access to channel them to the market.
So mbok imisunu yo igbe governor nyin ibo mbok ya mo sunu nwami no nyin kusanga do mfra nyin eti usanga na mkpo uru anyin amadi ku iyak ini esuto iyak afogbayem arukete berefrero inini uru asinyam because of usang
akpan kpor usang me usanga mi aba freke sem kpon nyina tak usang iba iko fongi ba ezaki kami kayam kpomi yentak mban bat to nwang baro ma ko won te ko sanga ba ku sang nyini ni yemi a link usanga sanga ke kai pe koronkun ake link igwere junction ikpe aruchuku road nyini mine junction do but tongro ndin di voice di panja mban bat asina fonge baiba machine wata enango kwa wata awakukot mbok ya government edi support nyin enam bom enonyin.
They, however, called on the state government to revisit the area and help them have access to good roads. Good road infrastructure is a basic amenity that every society needs to run and sustain its daily activities, including growing and sustaining its economy. The people of Ikadesian village in Ibesibo expressed difficulty in a number of issues hampering their livelihood as a community. Speaking with Spectrum Television, the village head, Etidon Okonasukwa, expressed some of the difficulties that they have with the roads.
Any successful government and so the only route leading to no circles, which is not that. Only route because Uran road. Because to Kumbang road. Mean a game. And I'm going on in a river. Can enter me for going you something in what I won't go no government in any cook in my pound. I'm trying